No, you don't need a chair.
بسم الله. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه وبركاته عليه. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة كل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. As we continue the chapter of Kitab al-Nikah, the chapter of marriage, or from those subchapters that are in the actual book, is a book called Al-Kafa'a wal-Khiyar fi Nikah, the chapter of adequacy and alternative in marriage. Adequacy and alternative in marriage. We were discussing the tremendous narration of Barira. And I said to everyone that this actual narration, if you go in one of the most, I would say the most amta' al-fusul or al-abwab fil fiqh, as we know as Kitab al-Bay', or the most enjoying or the most delightful you'll find, or the most great chapters you'll find in order to make Islam show the conclusiveness of it, how complete it is the chapter called Kitab al-Bay'. And you'll notice that it is a very extensive, long chapter, Kitab al-Bay', the chapter of sales and transactions. It's one of the most greatest abwab you'll find that even Ahl-Ilm mentioned it's most in-depth, the most tedious, and the most greatest, to show you the conclusiveness of our religion. In that chapter of Kitab al-Bay', you'll find the hadith is called the Hadith of Barira. Hadith Barira. Hadith Barira, like we said, is a long hadith. You'll find the great Imam Hafiz Ahmad bin Ali ibn Shihab al-Hajar al-Asqalani, rahimahullah, that he used a part of the hadith in the chapter. As he did not use the narration totally, as I discussed last week. You notice the narration if you look in your books. It says, وَيَفَارِ عَائِشَ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهَا. This is where we stopped at. It says, خُيِّرَتْ بَرِيرَةُ عَلَى زَوْجِهَا حِينَ عَتَقَتْ. It says that Barira was given the alternative. So if you notice the chapter, the subtitle, you'll notice, what does it say? It says the chapter of adequacy and alternative in marriage. Adequacy, or being adequate, meaning one spouse is adequate for the other, whether it be in different aspects. As you look in your books, if you notice in the beginning of the chapter, it says, for example, Bab al-Kafa'a wal-Khiyar. We discussed maybe approximately a month ago, speaking about, for example, having adequacy in Hurriya, or adequacy in the aspect of the religion, meaning them being compatible and adequate in the aspect of the religion. And we talked about how there are different details in that. Like, for example, the adequacy of, for example, of shirk. One cannot marry a polytheist. In the aspect of the religion, a man cannot marry a polytheist. That a man who's or a woman who's a Muslim woman cannot marry a polytheist. She cannot marry a polytheist, nor a man from the book. But however, we know that a man can what? He cannot marry a polytheist woman or a pagan woman. But however, he can marry generally, he can marry a woman from the people of the book. Even though the great Imam al-Albani has a tremendous research in this matter, saying this is not applicable for these days. And I heard likewise the great Imam, even Muhammad ibn Hadi al-Madkhali, hafidhullah, said the exact same thing. So marrying a woman from the book is not applicable for these days. It's not applicable. As even when I heard the actual question was addressed, as an Imam al-Albani, rahimahullah, he talked about, as a question was posed and shown to the great Imam, Muhammad Nasruddin al-Albani, and he gave a tremendous detailed answer in regards to a man marrying a woman from the book. But the general hukum, or the general ruling, like we said, generally, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't make it what? Lawful, generally. But however, due to the details that also come along with that, you'll find, for example, he says, what do you know from a Kafir woman? For example, he gave his detailed answer. He said, for example, he says, when do we know? As we know, the conditions, or from the conditions, is the shart of ihsan, for example. Ihsan. And a woman has to be a chaste or chaste woman that has never had sex or had intimacy with a man outside of marriage. He says, and I'm asking you, the ones who are listening, what woman from the people of the book of these days and times, not the majority of them, never had sex with a man outside of a marriage? He says, answer me. Not one. He says, and on top of that, he says, we know that it's not even permissible to marry a Muslim woman who's a Zaniya. It's not married. It's not permissible to marry a Muslim woman who's a fornicator. Of course, we know until she makes tawbah. She makes tawbah, that's something different. But before that, we know that it's not even permissible, as he says in the recording. If you listen to it, if people ask me, I'll give it to them after the lesson. He mentioned the same exact recording. He says, the point that we're making now, he says, it's not even permissible for a Muslim man to marry a fornicated Muslim woman before tawbah, because the marriage would be what? Invalid. And it's also impermissible. He says, if that's the case with a Muslim woman, what about a Kafir woman who fornicates and she doesn't believe what she's doing is wrong at all? He says, in contrast to the women of the book from the past, he says, you'll find during the time of the Prophet and the people who are upon practicing Christianity in those days and times, you'll find, he says, that they did believe that what they were doing was what? Was wrong and it was incorrect. And they had the absolute belief that it was something that was what? Unlawful. And you'll find that the women also, a lot of them were chaste women. They were chaste women who believed that preserving their chastity was something tremendous and honorable, noble. He says, in contrast to these days and times, he said, what woman, especially from the people of the book, number one, that has never been with a man outside of their marriage. That's number one. Number two, that they actually truly believe in their mind what they're doing is incorrect and what they're doing is wrong. That's number two. He said, number three, he says, even though, he said, let's just say that all those shurut, all those different conditions or prerequisites are still there. If you look into the recording, what the great Imam al-Bani mentioned says, he says, even if he was to look to the recording, even if he was to fulfill these conditions, that the shart of ihsan, the shart of being chaste, and also likewise, let's just say she's a virgin. He said, still, he says it's not applicable for these days. Why? He said, because during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, he says the women of the book, of course we know some of the Sahaba had actually what? One of them had actually married a woman from the book during the time. He said, yes. He said, because the woman, when she marries a Muslim man, he said that more than likely, he brought the hadith about hijrah. Notice how the Imam al-Bani connected the hadith. He's talking about the narration pertaining to making migration to a Muslim country. He says the aspect of one's children, when you get married to a woman of the book, he says that's also something that a man has to look at, especially for the type of Christians of these days and times. He said back then, women were, of course, more submissive, and the man had more influence over the woman. He said that's one of the reasons why Allah legislated that a man can marry a woman from the book, because the ultimate goal is that she would be influenced, that she will what? Sway towards what he's upon. And he will also dominate the relationship where the children will be able to be swayed toward the religion of Islam. He said, due to the fact that if you look in the narrations, that the women of the book, in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, when they married a man who was a Muslim man, they would go to his land and migrate to his land. So it would be more of an influence upon the woman as far as the actual life of what Islam being upon her, being dominated as far as in the aspect of the husband and who's around her. And we know that an environment, and use the hadith of the hijrah to say that how the environment plays a major role in influence upon a person. In the environment they live in, so more than likely the woman will be influenced, even though she's a Christian lady, will be what? Influenced and swayed towards practicing his religion, and she will have to abide by it. And whereas the children will not be what? Affected. He says, in contrast to these days and times, he says you'll find a man that marries a Christian woman, and he's staying in the country, the lands of the non-Muslims. What will be more of now influence? You married a Christian lady, and on top of that, you live in the land of the kuffar.
So now what was going to come as a result of it is what? That your children are going to be more influenced by what? What she's about. He says, staying in the land of the non-Muslims, and to add to that, she's also upon Christianity. Well, more likely, of course, and on top of that, you'll find that the actual rights of the woman could be used against you if you try to now what? Try to dictate of what type of way the household has to be ran religiously, and also likewise administratively around the affairs of the household, who will have more rights rather if they try to make it equal. And in some cases, you'll find that a woman has more rights of domination over the man. You understand? So that's the reason why he said it's not applicable these days. To marry a Christian woman these days is why this is not applicable. Is that everyone? So during the time, and that's my strongest opinion, in which I truly firmly believe, and likewise I heard Sheikh Muhammad Hadi say the exact same thing. Say the exact same thing about a man marrying a Christian woman is not applicable for these days. طيب. So we say, in regards to the hadith of Barira, if you notice during the time of the Prophet, the hadith of Barira, which is a tremendous narration, like we talked about, you notice in your books, if you look at it, the great Imam al-Hafiz, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, was actually refuting the narration. If you look in your books of Ibn Umar, where I discussed last week, where it says, Al-Arab akfa ba'tuhum akfa'u ba'. The Arab, they suffice one another, or they're adequate for one another, meaning an Arab can only marry an Arab. He says, well, and the Mawali ba'tuhum akfa'u ba'. That the free slaves, or the slaves of the free slaves, suffice one another. So based upon that narration, it says that a Arab can only marry an Arab, and what? And a Mawali or Mawla, a free slave, can only marry a free slave. We talked about, notice al-Hafiz, like we said last week, al-Hafiz ibn Hajar put this narration in the chapter. And notice now, if you look in your books, that he brought narrations refuting that narration and proving why this narration is weak. We talked about from those narrations was what, everyone? Hadith of Fatima bint Qais, and also the hadith of Abu Hurairah about Abu Bayyab or Bani Bayyab, who he said to marry their children, or marry Abu Hind, marry him off, and also marry into his family, Abu Hind. He brought narrations refuting that narration upon Ibn Umar. Why? Because these narrations are more affirmed in its authenticity. They've been established as far as they've been authentic and stronger in their what? In their authenticity and in their affirmation, what has been related upon the Prophet ﷺ. And they also established that hadith of Ibn Umar is what is munkar. Because we said it goes, and why he says munkar? Because it opposes the narrations that are more stronger and authentic, because there's so many to prove that it is not a prerequisite if one wants to marry a woman or a woman wants to marry a man. Is that what? Then he has to be an Arab, or for example, he has to be a free slave and she has to be free, or he has to be free and she has to likewise be free. Or for example, that one comes from a higher lineage than the other. That one cannot marry a woman who comes from an honorable, noble lineage, and a man might come from a lineage where he might not have one at all. He says all these narrations, in which you'll find the great Imam al-Hafiz ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, that he brings in order to affirm that narration on Ibn Umar is what? Is munkar, is weak, is munkar. So we stopped at the hadith of Barira, and I said this hadith is a tremendous hadith because during the Barira, you'll notice this is a tremendous hadith which is used in the chapter of Bay', in the chapter of Kitab al-Bay', of sales and transactions. You'll find that Barira, during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, Barira was a slave at one time. Barira was a slave. And during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, we talked about there's a particular type of liberation that one, if he wants it, liberation, that if a person is a slave during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, or in general, whether it be during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, after that, there's a matter called mukataba. Mukataba is when one, once his liberation, he wants to free himself. And during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, Barira wanted her what? Her freedom. There's an ayah in the book of Allah, like I said, I think it's in Surah An-Nur, it's in Surah Al-Ahzab. I think it's in Surah An-Nur, it comes to my mind right now. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book about those who were mukataba, it says, فَكَاتِبُوهُمْ إِنْ عَلَمْتَ فِيهِمْ خَيْرًا. He says, فَكَاتِبُوهُمْ إِنْ عَلَمْتَ فِيهِمْ خَيْرًا. Meaning, allow them to that mukataba, if you know in them good. So that mukataba is basically what if one was a mawla, he was an actual slave, or he was a concubine, he wanted his freedom. So what will happen is that that person will what? He will go to those who are in charge of him, and he would say, I want to my freedom based upon a certain amount of money in which I'll save, and I give to you. And then after that, then what? Then I attain my liberation or my freedom after that. So they write their money, they save their money, gather it, have it, save it over a period of time. They give it to those who are over him or her, give it to the actual family, and the family accepts the money, and they give her their liberation and freedom. It's done. Like we said last week, I said that the word al-wala in the Arabic language, the Prophet ﷺ during the time of what happened with the family, as Barira went to Aisha radiallahu anha, and she wanted to perform this matter called mukataba. And like I said, mukataba is in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَكَاتِبُوهُمْ إِنْ عَلِمْتَ فِيهِمْ خَيْرًا. It's an ayah. فَكَاتِبُوهُم. Which is to let us know that the ultimate goal of everyone is to have them liberated, and not to be slaves at all. And the actual reason for the slavery is to actually allow those concubines to live amongst the Muslims so they can become Muslim. Instead of killing them and putting them in jail and torturing them and throwing away the key, the actual reason is to bring them in and allow them to live amongst the actual families. And they are not what? They're not put in some type of cage. They're not put in some type of, for example, incarceration where they stay in it. And then they are deprived of food and they're tortured and they're treated in a very inhumane type of manner. Rather, they actually live with the family as if they are part of the family. They actually live with the family as if they're part of the family. And they live with the family and they are treated as such as if they are part of the family. So slavery in Islam is totally different from the Eurocentric slavery of the West. Totally different. Right. So now, Barira, and likewise, as we know from the Mawali, there were different Mawali. For example, Hassan al-Basri was a Mawla. Yes, I did. I did some research on it, and even Imam al-Bari said Hassan al-Basri was a free slave. Also, Nafi', the Mawla of Ibn Umar, was a free slave. You'll find that a lot of Ahl Ilm, from those who are from the Jibal, from the mountains of knowledge, from our religion, well, the majority of them were Mawali. They were free slaves. طيب. For during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, she went to Aisha Barira, and she wanted to purchase her freedom, of course, with 360 dirham, with 360 dirhams. She came to Aisha, like I said last week, seeking her help and seeking her aid, and she was asking from her to aid her in this matter. Aisha said, إِنْ أَحَبَّ أَهْلُكَ أَنْ أُعِدَّ لَهُمْ هَذِهِ الدَّرَاهِمْ وأنقذها لهم ويكون ولاؤك لي فعلت. This is what Aisha, she said, إن أحب أهلك أن أعد لهم هذه الدراهم وأنقذها لهم ويكون ولاؤك لي فعلت. He says, if your family wants, he says, I will prepare these dirhams and I will make it an amount of how it's money, an amount of money for them. However, the wala, as I talked about last week, the wala has to belong to me. The wala has to belong to me. What's the wala? This is something I forgot to mention to everyone last week. This is the important matter. As we know, a person will stay free and give the liberation to the slave, right, everyone? Notice it says the word, as I said last week, Mawla so and so, meaning that they're the free slave of such and such family, or the free slave of so and so. For example, a Nafi', Mawla ibn Umar. So the wala is for Ibn Umar. Or for example, Usama ibn Zayd, Mawla Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As we know, during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, at first he was what? They tried to call him the Ibn, as his son. Then, of course, we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had what? Nullified that. And he said instead of Usama bin Zayd was called Hibbu Rasulillah, the one who the Messenger of Allah truly loved, and he was the Mawla of the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam. Mawla. So the wala was for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. However, the wala belongs, as we'll talk about in the narration, the actual wala belongs to the one who frees the slaves. Right? Play. Also, on top of that, the reason why you'll find why the Messenger of Allah, I'm going to read it in a couple of minutes. The Messenger of Allah was mad when a person purchased their freedom and they freed, even though they freed them. Or for example, what happened with Aisha, when she went to the family, she said, I want the wala to belong to me. I want the wala to belong to me. Once I purchase, you'll give you the money to aid you in this matter. As we're going to read the hadith, there's an important point I'm going to bring about once I read the narration. Anyway, I'm just going to read it quickly, and then Then I'll get back to the point in which I want to bring about and manifest here, because it's an important point. It says here, إن أحب أهلك عد هذه الدراهم وأنقذها لهم ويكون ولاؤك لي فعدته. He says that if the family loves, I'll prepare for these dirhams and I'll make it an amount of money. But then, like he said, the wala has to belong to me. So Barira went to her family. She said to them, Aisha said, however, they refused. So Barira went back to Aisha, and the Prophet ﷺ was present. What did the family refuse and what did they reject? They rejected that the wala had to remain with them. Even though Aisha purchased her, freed her, but they still wanted the wala to remain with them. The wala had to remain to them. So just keep that in mind. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ has said to Aisha, خُذِيهَا وَاشْتَرِطِي لَهُمُ الْوَلَاءَ فَإِنَّمَا الْوَلَاءُ لِمَنْ أَعْتَقَ. خُذِيهَا وَاشْتَرِطِي لَهُمُ الْوَلَاءَ فَإِنَّمَا الْوَلَاءُ لِمَنْ أَعْتَقَ. So the Prophet ﷺ was present when she heard Aisha saying this statement. So the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, upon that, he says to Aisha, take her, but give the stipulation that what? Give the stipulation that you have the wala, that it belongs to you. Because verily the wala belongs to the one who frees or liberates the slave, the concubine. Just keep in mind this so far, because I'm going to bring another point. So, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, upon this, he told them to what? He told Aisha to make upon the stipulation that the wala belongs to her. They wanted to make the stipulation that the wala belongs to what? That they keep it. He said, وَإِنِ اشْتَرَطْتُ أَنَّ الْوَلَاءَ لَهُمْ فَالْوَلَاءُ لَكِ أَنْتِ لأنك أنت المعتقى. فاشترتها عائشة واشترتها لهم الولاء, as it says. He says, and Aisha radiallahu anha, Prophet said, the wala belongs to you at the end of the day. You purchased her, you bought her, prepared the money, you gave it to her. So now the wala moves from them to what? To you. To you, Aisha radiallahu anha. Fine. Because you're the one who will free her. So the Messenger of Allah came and he gave an exhortation and reminded the people. And he nullified this what? This stipulation, this condition. So the Messenger of Allah came upon the minbar and he said, after he praised Allah, he said this tremendous statement. And this tremendous statement right here is a qa'idah in sales and transactions. It's one of the foundations of which sales and transactions are what? Based upon. The Messenger of Allah said this statement right here. He says, ما بال أقواما يشترطون شروطا ليس في كتاب الله فكل شرط ليس في كتاب الله فهو باطل وإن كان 100 شرط وإن كان 100 شرط فقضاء الله أحق قضاء الله أحق وشرطه أوثق إنما الولاء لمن أعتق إنما الولاء لمن أعتق. So the Messenger of Allah, when he came upon, he sent it upon the minbar, or he gave that speech, that exhortation to the people, reminding them, he says, فَخَطَبَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم. After he praised Allah, said to them, he says, أَمَّا بَعْدُ فَمَا بَالُ أَقْوَامٍ يَشْتَرِطُونَ شُرُوطًا لَيْسَ فِي كِتَابِ اللَّهِ. What is wrong with people that they make stipulations that's not in the book of Allah? He says, any shart or any condition, of course, that opposes the Kitab and Sunnah, and also likewise what comes as a result of it, injustice and oppression, he says, it is batil, it is what? It is nullified, it is rejected, even if it's 100 conditions. He says, قضاء Allah ahaq. قضاء Allah ahaq. That which Allah has proclaimed is more deserving and more truthful. Let it be carried out, of course. And he said that also the shart of Allah is awthaq, that the condition of Allah is more binding. Is more binding. Verily, the wala belongs to the one who what? Frees the slave or liberates the concubine. He says, فَلَمَا عُتِقَتْ. So, the Messenger of Allah laid down this qaida. One of the reasons why the matter of wala is tremendous, because what plays now, what comes as a result of it, is inheritance. It's inheritance. So the actual family wanted to keep the wala with them, even though Aisha had bought her what? Purchased her freedom. So the actual reality, they could keep the inheritance, and she would remain as inheritance to them, even though she purchased her what? Freedom. So that's the reason why the Messenger of Allah what? Was upset and angry. How could you what? Aisha purchase her freedom, free her, but still the wala belongs to you. Basically, you still keep her as your inheritance and as your money and your wealth, even though she's been freed. So that's the reason why the wala had to be passed on to the person who actually what? Liberated. It's not for the other family to keep it, because like we said, the affairs of inheritance now take place. So that's the reason why the Messenger of Allah mentioned and said, la. Rather, the wala belongs to the person who what? Frees the slave. Not for you to now give her or accept the mukataba, or accept the affair, what we call mukataba, as I explained it. Accepted the money, it passed on to another person. She freed them, but still you basically have your cake and eat it too at the same time. So you benefited monetarily, and you get to keep her as inheritance after the fact. You understand? So basically you can have your cake and eat it too at the same time. So the Messenger of Allah said that once it passes on, then what, everyone? It frees and moves on to the one who what? Freed the slave, and the wala moves on to her too. And when she's freedom, she's free. She has her what? Liberation. And she has her freedom, and there's no way that a person now can conduct in them. This we'll talk about inshallah in a couple of minutes. But that was one of the reasons why, like we said, the wala had to be passed on to the person who freed the slave, and on top of that, the description of the mawla, of a person being a mawla, has to go back to the one who freed. It can't go back to the person who previously had owned her previously, or who was in charge of her affairs before her, or before that concubine. They can't say, for example, you purchase, and you say, for example, Aisha, you say, Barira, mawla, bani fulan. No, you have to say mawla, Aisha. Since now the actual her affairs have been passed on to who? To another person. So I had to stay with Aisha radiallahu anha, and it was not for them to keep her wala, and the affairs, like we said, of inheritance also takes place. We'll talk about that inshallah. So that's the reason why the Messenger of Allah had nullified this condition. However, that's not the point of why we mentioned it. The point why I mentioned the hadith, I'm about to mention it right now in a couple of minutes. This long hadith, because the hadith is what? Is very long. As I said last week, you'll notice also, the Prophet ﷺ, now Barira became in the discretion or under the authority of Aisha. Right? طيب. So now what happened with Aisha radiallahu anha, or what happened with Barira, excuse me. Barira, after she had attained her freedom and liberation, what did she do? She had a husband. Barira had a husband. Barira had a husband, and after she became and attained her freedom, she now had became a what? Hurra, she became liberated, and her husband had remained a what? A concubine. And at one time, she and her husband were concubines. So now Barira became at a higher level. So this is the point of the hadith here in the chapter. If you look at it, it's talking about what? It's talking about alternative and what? It's talking about adequacy and alternative in marriage. So both affairs now are carried out here. So number one, the hadith is talking about what? Adequacy. So the actual adequacy here, this particular matter, Barira became what? Free. Her husband still was what? Still a slave. Was still a concubine. So now here's where it plays into what? Of adequacy. So now she became a little bit higher than her husband now. We talked about last week when Barira became higher as far as in the level, as far as her being freed, she was given the choice, the alternative. Did she want to remain with her husband or not? And Barira, of course, what everyone, Barira used to hate her husband. Used to hate him. She used to hate him. To the point you'll find in the narration that it says that the Messenger of Allah had gave her the choice, gave her the alternative. To either stay with her husband or what? Or to nullify the marriage or annul it. Annul the marriage and discontinue the marriage. He says, even though that's the shahid of the hadith here. That's the point of reference of why we mentioned it here in the chapter. Why al-Hafiz ibn Hajar mentioned it here. Al-Hafiz ibn Hajar mentioned the narration here because of this one sentence, or this one reason here. Because the Messenger of Allah gave her the choice, either to what? Remain with her husband or what? Annul the marriage. So they can continue it. So now here, in this particular sentence, or the statement here, he gave her the choice to continue the marriage. So it's to let you know that the marriage is still what? Valid. So a slave or a person who's a concubine can marry to a what? Can be married to a what? Free woman. She can still be married and they can be married to each other. And the marriage will still be what? Valid. Or the woman had the choice to what? Discontinue the marriage. Also, like I said last week, I said that from the benefits extracted from the hadith, also likewise to show that a woman does have her what? Her free choice in affairs, and it's not a dominant, as they call it. You'll try to find that they try to say that Islam is a male dominant, and no women have no choice in no affairs, and they're oppressed, and they have no choice in anything, and they just have to go along with what the man tells them to do, and they have to do it. They have no choice in any matters of anything in their lives. This narration refutes that. It rejects that notion, and Islam calls for oppressive, tyrannical type of male dominant in every matter, religion. This narration refutes it because what? The Messenger of Allah gave her the choice to say you can continue the marriage or you can what? Nullify it. You have the actual choice. So the Messenger of Allah had mentioned, and when he mentioned the Barira, so the marriage was actually still valid. But however, due to the fact that her husband now was what? Still concubine. And she became higher than him as far as in the level of what they call hurriyah. Her being what? Not let me say hurriyah, that's a bad choice of word. Her being hurrah, her being liberated and free. The Prophet said, now you have the choice. And like we talked about last week, Barira used to hate her husband. She didn't like him. So she wanted to discontinue the marriage. She wanted to discontinue the marriage until her husband started crying. And he started following his wife. He started following her. He didn't divorce her yet. He started following her in the different markets of al-Madinah. And he used to cry to her, ask him to stay with her. Stay with me. Stay with me. Until she went to the Messenger of Allah, like I said last week. She went to the Messenger of Allah, saying, he went to the Messenger of Allah, the actual husband, saying to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, aid me. Please, my wife wants to leave me. She don't want to stay with me anymore. So number one, you'll find that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, due to this is a narration to show how humble he was. It's not like to show, oh, man, I don't have no time. I have to run the whole nation. Don't you realize I got a nation I got to run? I'm too busy for you. What did the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam do? Even though he was the greatest man, the greatest of those who walk on this earth, and the prophets, the greatest of prophets, the greatest example, the greatest of leaders, the greatest of personalities, the greatest of those who have the greatest of manners, the greatest of lineages, you name it, and strength of how many different men to the end of it. The Messenger of Allah, did he say to him, did he say that I'm too busy? Don't you see what I'm doing? You don't see how busy I am? Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam accompanied the husband along to see Barira. Walk with him. So he said to Barira, look to your husband, you see him crying? He wants to stay with you. So Barira said, O Messenger of Allah, I don't love him. She used to detest him, and he used to love her. So the Messenger of Allah said, don't you look to your husband? He wants to stay with you. He wants to be with you. So listen to Barira, she said in the narration. She says, Atatmuruni ya Rasulullah. Are you commanding me to stay with him? So Prophet said, La, innama ana mutawassat, ana shafi'. I'm not commanding you. I'm just trying to aid. I'm just trying to help. That's it. I'm not commanding you. I'm just trying to help. So it shows the humbleness of the Prophet how humble he was. Very humble man. Humble to the most utmost. Alayhi salatu wasalam. So I'm just trying to aid and help. That's it. No more than this. I'm not commanding you. So what did the Barira do? She said, Ethan, I'm just going to stay away and not be married to him no more. I'm not going to be married to him no more. So Barira discontinued the marriage with her husband. طيب. During the time of the Masjid, now the hadith doesn't stop there. It's a long hadith, very long. So you know we just went from one part to another part. There's another part of the hadith. طيب. So now if you look to the hadith after this happened, Barira, she didn't want to remain with her husband. The Messenger of Allah tried to rectify it. He wanted to help. He tried to keep the couple together. He said, don't you see your husband's feelings? He loves you. Don't you want to stay with him to try to sort it out, work it out? She said, oh Messenger of Allah, are you commanding me? He said, no. I'm just trying to aid you. I'm just trying to sort it out and aid. That's it. He said, no, I don't want to stay with her. So, you understand? Right. After that situation, here comes another part of the hadith, the narration. It says, دخل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يريد طعاما. So Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, one day, before we get to that part, Barira said, Ya Rasulullah, in kunta ta'murani فَالسَّمْعًا وَالطَّاعَةً. This is what Barira said. O Messenger of Allah, if you commanded me, then I hear and obey. So the Messenger of Allah, in kuntu tushiru alayh, فَلَيْسَ لِي حَاجَ فِيهِ. And if you're giving me the alternative, he says, I have no need for him. فَلَيْسَ لِي حَاجَةٌ فِيهِ. فقال صلى الله عليه وسلم بل أشير. I'm just trying to rectify and I'm just trying to advise and that's it. قالت لا حاجة لي فيه. I have no need for it. ففسخت النكاح. So she discontinued it. And Barira had stayed with Aisha in her house. She stayed with Aisha, Barira. And she stayed as a servant for Aisha, just to serve her in aid. So one day, she came upon the Messenger of Allah. The Messenger of Allah came in the house. And he, alayhi salatu wasalam, wanted a meal. So they gave a meal to him, sallallahu, but however didn't have any meat in it. So the Prophet sallallahu said, Anam ara al-burmata al-nar. Then I see it's a certain type of burma. Like there was some type of container that was usually cooked in it meat. He says, I seen the container that was cooked in that container was usually cooked in it meat, that it was lit, that it was used. So he's just saying that it basically had some what? Some meat in it. This is to show that what? Also, that meat is also the Messenger of Allah, him being the best of creation, that he also used to eat what? Meat. Understand everyone? So those who are vegetarians to the end of it, or vegans, For those who want to be that, then what? Meat. Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam ate meat. And he looked and wanted to eat what? Meat. So as far as in regards to that, I eat meat. Like, but at any rate, as far as this country, of course, with the actual how they put all the hormones and stuff, and of course we avoid it because we want to harm our bodies. Of course, if we know there's places where it's natural and they raise them properly and they don't fill it up with a bunch of chemicals, then of course by all means I'm going to eat it. Right. So based upon this, especially if it was in the Middle East, based upon this, that we said here, the Prophet ﷺ said, did I not see this burma upon the fire? Meaning that this container was lit. So that it was an indication showing that what? Meat was cooked. Right, everyone? No, you sit right here. No, you two? No. Evident. Y'all don't sit together at all. Itlaqan. You sit right here. So the burma, so once the Messenger of Allah sallallahu has seen that container that was literally some type of meat, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu says, Ya Rasulullah, هذا اللحم تصدق به على بريرة. This meat was given as sadaqah for Barira. This is a point I want everyone to realize. I want everyone to be attentive of here. Of course, we know the Messenger of Allah sallallahu it was haram for him to what? To eat sadaqah. He says, وَكَانَ النَّبِيُّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم لا يأكل, the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم didn't used to eat sadaqah. He didn't used to eat sadaqah. Nor zakat, nor tatawwur, or anything that was given as voluntary give it to him. Never used to what? Take it. So listen to this hadith here. So the actual sadaqah was given to who? Who was it given to, everyone? Barira. Was it given directly to what? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Listen to the statement what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in this narration. He says, هو علي صدقة ولنا هدية. هو علي صدقة ولنا هدية. It is upon us sadaqah, of course. It's upon us, or excuse me, it was given to Barira as sadaqah, but it is for us a gift. So based upon this, what does that mean? It was given to Barira as sadaqah, but it's for us a gift. Just to let us know that what's extracted as fiqh from this statement here. Anyone? So now, what did the Messenger of Allah, based upon this statement, what do you think he did? He did eat the meat. Jayyid. It says, فَأَكَلَ مِنْهُ. And that was from the barakah of Barira. For the that this sunnah was also what? Legislated, based upon this. Of course, we know whoever owns something, وَمَلَّكَهُ لَهُ أَن يُمَلِّكَهُ مَا لَا يَحِلُّ لَهُ تَمَلُّكُهُ. That whoever, for example, he has something that the actual concubine, of course, was for Aisha. It was for Aisha. Of course, the origin of it was not for him to what? To touch it or to eat it or to take it. It wasn't for him to do that. But due to the fact it was something else on the side, that it was given to them in that manner, then it was for him to what, everyone? Just looking. It was for him to eat the meat based upon the fact it wasn't directly what? Given to him. So that was a sunnah that was taken and extracted from that one narration. He says, عَلَيْهَا صَدَقَةٌ وَهُوَ لَنَا هَدِيَّةٌ. It will be for us, belong to us a gift. So that is basically from the hadith of Barira, which is a tremendous hadith. It is so many different benefits that's extracted from it. And this is not the time to get into all of it, but that's just some of it. But the point of reference to the shahid, if you look at your books in the Bulugh al-Maram, the actual mawdi' shahid plays in this part right here, which says, خُيِّرَتْ بَرِيرَةٌ عَلَى زَوْجِهَا حِينَ عَتَقَتْ. If you look at your books, it says, Barira was what? Given the alternative and the choice for her husband, or over her husband, when she was freed. When she was what? Freed. So that's the point of reference of the hadith here. That is to refute the narration of Ibn Umar again. Why, everyone? Because she became what? Free, and he still was a concubine, but the marriage was still what, everyone? Valid. That she could continue it or what? Discontinue it. To let us know that in Islam, it doesn't matter. A person can be an Arab married to a non-Arab, or a person that's high in lineage can be married to someone that might be less in lineage. For example, a person might have been born out of wedlock. Now, can he marry a woman that's her established, her family is well known? Based upon that hadith of Ibn Umar, they can. Because they don't suffice one another as far as in their what? There's no adequacy in the lineage. However, these narrations nullify that. To say that even though a person might, for example, come from a background, from a real noble family, that's high in their lineage, is well established who their family are, and a person might come from a background, might not know his lineage. Might have came from a background, he was born out of wedlock. So now we're going to say it's haram, they can't do it. We said based upon these narrations, no. Now all these narrations nullify that. To say a person, a woman, an Arab woman can marry a non-Arab, and a mawla can marry a free person, or a free slave can marry a what? Free person. And that the marriage will still be what? Still be valid. So all these different narrations, like we said, it's important to be aware of, because some people will say that or adequacy is a condition in marriage. And we know, based upon these type of conditions, like we said, there's adequacy in different affairs. We said in deen, then you have adequacy in hurriya. If you go back to the beginning of your books, we discussed this about a month ago, as they said, al-musawa bayn al-zawjayn fi al-hurriya, that there has to be adequacy between the two spouses as far as the what? Liberation, as far as them being free. We just talked about this hadith here, says that the actual rajih, or the strongest opinion, is what, everyone? That these two couples can still what? Remain, they can be married, and they can remain married. But once it gets to a certain point where, like we said, one of them becomes higher than the other, then they can what? Either continue it or what? Discontinue or annul the marriage based upon the hadith of Hurairah. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Fine. If you notice that it says in your books, it says, what time is it? It's 2:21. Hold on for 1 second, everyone. I didn't know that our brother just gave me a fact that said that the female concubine is only specific, or the word concubine is only specifically for a female. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. And I was unaware of that. Jazakallah khair for giving me that fa'idah. Linguistically in English, the word concubine is only specifically for a woman. May Allah reward you for that benefit. I didn't know that. Jazakallah khair. Fine. So for a male, you would just say what? Slave, right? G. Fine. So now we continue in the narration where it says, where it talks about Muslim, it says that her husband was a what? Slave. One narration says that he was hur, he was free. But however, he says what is athbat, what is more affirmed, or what is more authentic, that is what? Just it comes in Bukhari, that he was actually a what? It says that he was a slave. I'll read quickly what the great Imam Salih Fawzan, Abdullah Fawzan, he mentions, it says, about this hadith of Barira. He says, هذه بريرة كانت أمة عند بعض الأنصار وزوجها عبد. He said that Barira was a Amma. She was a concubine, she was a concubine with some of the Ansar, and her husband was a Abd. Her husband was a slave, of course. He said, ثم إنها كاتبت أهلها. She had performed, and I already mentioned, that mukataba. I talked about what the meaning of it is, right, everyone? Basically, it's a mahar, or it's a type of a dowry or payment that's paid to them, to the family, and then she became liberated and free. This is what جاءت إلى عائشة رضي الله عنها تطلب منها المساعدة. We already talked about that. She came to Aisha requesting from her aid and help. So Aisha granted that help and aided her and paid that dain. تدفع كل دين الكتابة ويكون ولاؤها لها. That she paid the actual all of the debts. That dain al-kitaba, that dain of the debt of for her to receive her freedom, gathering that money and giving it to the family to the end of it. Now this is what Shaykh Salih Fawzan mentions says. ميراثها. He says ولاؤها يعني, when you say wala, now listen to this. He says her inheritance, or her being inherited. فذهبت إليهم. Notice he said that it was what? Her being inherited. She's considered what? Inheritance. He says فذهبت إليهم وأخبرتهم فأبوا إلا أن يكون الولاء لهم فرد النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم هذا. He says that they rejected and refused that the wala, except that it remained to what? Remained in them, with them. The wala had to stay with them. So the Prophet ﷺ rejected this, nullified this condition. So he says, just to sum it up, the story of Barira, وكان زوجها مملوكا فلما اعتقت صارت حرة وزوجها مملوكا فجاء لها النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم الخيار. So in the story of Barira, her husband was what? Was a slave, and then she became liberated. He said, but however he still remained the state of being a what? Slave until the Messenger of Allah had gave the what? Barira the choice, the alternative. Even though he's still the what? He was a slave. But he said, from the benefits extracted from this, he says, this is an indication of how the Amma, or the female concubine, has the alternative. If she's free, and she's under what? She's under what? A slave, or her husband is a slave to whatever. To the end of it. He says, فدل على الكفاءة في الحرية. فإذا لم توجد الكفاءة في الحرية فإن للمرأة الخيار. He said this is an indication of adequacy as far as in what? Them being adequate in what? Them being free. He said, for verily if there's no adequacy in them being free, then the woman has the choice, an alternative. Because the Prophet ﷺ gave the choice to who? Barira. Then it says, of course we know the most authentic of the narration is what? That her husband was actually a what? A abd. That's the most authentic. He said this is sahih. هي صارت حرة ولذلك خيرها النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لأنه لو كان حرا وهي قد عتقت وصارت حرة لم يحصل اختلاف الكفاءة. إنما تخييرها يدل على تفاوت الكفاءة بينها وبين زوجها. He says even if she was to what? Be hur, and she became liberated, of course she became free. If that wasn't the case, of course, if that wasn't the case when she wasn't free, he said then of course there wouldn't be no khilaf as far as inadequacy because they're both at the same level now. That never took place. But however, the alternative of the Prophet ﷺ gave her the choice is an indication that kafa'ah, that adequacy can be of different levels in certain situations based upon what? Based upon different types of circumstances, and from them is in the affair of what they call hurriya, of one being liberated and one being still being a slave or concubine. As the name of Barira's husband was Mughith. Barira's husband, his name was Mughith. رضي الله عنه. فلما خيرت كان زوجها يحبها جدا. This is to confirm what I just mentioned. It said that her husband used to love her immensely. So كان يحبها جدا. So he used to love her immensely. وكان يتعرض لهما في سكك المدينة ليبكي بكاء شديدا بعد فراقها. ومع هذا خيرها النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وشفع عندها على أن تبقى فأبت. He says her husband used to love her immensely until he says that he عليه الصلاة والسلام had seen them in the Sakak al-Medina, in one of the roads of Medina, and he was crying. He was crying in a very severe type of crying. He was crying a whole lot to show that he was very upset and sad of her leaving him. Despite of that, the Messenger of Allah still gave her the choice. And he also came to try to sort it out. So Prophet tried to what? Come and sort it out between the two couples. Tried to come and aid. Because he's seen the tears of who? Of Mughith. Seen the tears of the husband. And he wanted to aid him and try to what? Try to ease and try to bring some ease to the situation. وقالت يا رسول الله تأمرني, O Messenger of Allah, you command me. The Prophet said, إنما أنا أشفع. Verily, I'm just an intercessor, just a middle person trying to sort it out. فقالت لا حاجة لي فيه. I have no need for it. So she chose to what? فاختارت نفسها. She chose her what? Her freedom. فالحاصل أن قصة بريرة تدل على الكفاءة في الحرية وأنها معتبرة وأنها توجب الخيار. He said, however, what we want to gather from this, the hadith of Barira indicates what? Kafa'ah. Adequacy, as far as in liberality or being free, that it is accepted, it is recognized, and that it also brings about alternative between the couples. You understand, everyone? It still is valid, but at the same time, what? That the husband or the wife and the woman has the what? The choice. But like we talked about, these narrations refute the ideologies of the mustashriqeen, those from the Orientalists who try to say, for example, that Islam is a oppressive religion upon the women, that it doesn't give them any choice in anything, and that they're just dominant, and at the end of the day, what's so crazy about things, and that someone just said this to me, I've seen this a while ago. Matter of fact, I think you've seen the brother Saul too. It even says in the Bible that the ones that, well, there is supposed to be some submissiveness to the man, but the man at the same time is not supposed to be so oppressive and dominant to say, shut up, woman, you're just a woman anyway. They're not supposed to talk like that. Men are not at the same time women. Yes, they're supposed to have some type of submissiveness to her husband, as is commanded, no doubt. But at the same time, the men are supposed to have some type of what? Softness towards their spouse. They're not supposed to also, you must notice the message of Allah. Some of the wives of the Messenger of Allah, alayhi salatu wasalam, did certain things where Aisha's jealousy took over and threw a plate on the ground. Smacked it out of her hand, just out of jealousy. Prophet said, you dumb broad, you stupid dumb, who you think you dumb? Smack her in the face, you stupid dumb woman. What did the Prophet do? What did he do? He just said what? He picked the plate up, picked the food up, and said what? This is the jealousy of your mother. That's it. He had patience. Us now these days of time, stupid dumb woman, dumb broad, you woman, smack her in the head, probably some men, because they have these issues with themselves of trying to probably have some male dominance. They had issues before they was Muslim probably, and they carried it over after they Muslim, and they want to try to impress a woman to make them feel like they're a man. Hey, that's not a man, you're a coward, and you're weak, and you just have issues. It's that simple. You understand? So a woman's supposed to have some submissiveness and respect for her husband. At the same time, that makes the husband more what? More humble. And treat her husband or treat his spouse with more patience and more humbleness too. So it's hand in hand. But at the same time, Christians try to say, for example, I gotta be submissive to my husband. You're talking about, it's in your book. It says it right there. It's a clear verse. That wives, submit yourself to your husband just as you're supposed to submit yourself to the Lord. It says it's a verse. It's in their own book. But they apply what they want and they leave what they want. At the end of the day, right? طيب. So we'll stop here inshallah بإذن الله. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Any questions about the lesson? تفضل.